Amanda Lamb, Amanda Lamb, Amanda Lamb. So I wanted you to talk to us just about film and its power and its legacy as a tool, right, for commentary and for shifting perspective, because I think a lot of people, we are getting very desensitized with all the Marvel movies and the DC
100%.
movies and thinking that that's really all movies are for.
100%. I mean, for me, movies have been such a way into other people's experience that I don't have personal experience with. Like, especially when we're talking about, as Amanda was referencing, older films, international films, documentaries. Like, these are such enriching pieces. And I think it is such a 3D experience because, it is more than reading. It is more than just seeing. A really good film will also hit you in an emotional place,
Yeah.
by using the technique of film, I think that that's such a big part of my job that I've come to realize. I think in times like this, it's really important when crafting a film program like we do. We'll put together a film for like a series that goes over the course of a month. So when thinking about what to do, especially for this year, I'm like, well, what do I want to say? What do I want to stand for? So for example, next month, I'm doing an entire series of films that are about class. And specifically, these are films that are highlighting the kind of lampoonery of the 1%
Ooh.
and things like that. So it's a lot of like social satire and things like that.
What are some of the films in there? Parasite's in there, right?
Parasite is definitely in there
Okay.
because Parasite is such a great way to put it. You know what I mean? It is so entertaining. And then you step away and you're just like, well, let's unpack that. Like, let's really talk about this. And it's interesting that many of those films in that series are international films because I do feel like a lot of international films are kind of more willing to dig into the
It's so
rich
true.
people in their systems,
Because I'm trying to think of like movies here that do that.
There aren't, I
And
mean, there really aren't that, there are not that many. It's kind of crazy. I was thinking that many American films that are about class are, in a good way, about lower class systems kind of rising up, which is nice. It's inspirational, a lot of films about unions and stuff like that. But someone pointed out to me, they're like, well, a lot of people who are like in Hollywood really kind of want to be in that space. So they don't really want to like dig at them too much. You know what I mean?
fair. And they're already in that space. So they don't even
100%.
have the blind, it's like blind spots.
They can't see it. I mean, in this series, the only American films, I think there's three. Two of them don't take place here, being Marie Antoinette and Gosford Park. They don't take place here.
Right.
And then the other one is this film from the 80s called Society, which is literally like a horror satire about the rich literally feeding off the poor. It is, a body horror film. And we tried to put a film in
Wait, what is
called,
a body horror genre? What is that?
so body horror is like movies like The Fly and things where like it's gonna be horror, but it's gonna be so gross. It's gonna be so disgusting, like very cringe. Very
So
cringe.
I'm making the right face.
Yes, literally making the right face. And we had this film that we wanted to put in called They Shoot Horses, Don't They? Which is about the Depression era where they would have these dance contests, these dance marathons, and you would get money. So essentially, what you have is a bunch of people who don't have money, lower class, doing these dance marathons for the people who are watching who have money. And it's so good. It is so terrifying in its own way because a marathon, as in, there are shifts, but these people are dancing for 24 hours and you get cut if you stop dancing.
It's very Squid Game in a way.
Yes, very much so. Very much so. And like rooted in the history of class in America.
Yeah.
Fantastic film. Jane
Someone
Fonda.
Oh, Jane Fonda. Someone suggested Trading Places.
Trading Places is great. That's one that I would have to rewatch because, comedy from a certain time period, you just got to be like, okay,
No, it
let me
passes
take
the
a
test.
look. Okay.
It passes the test.
Good to know.
Trading Places is actually a really good example of a film that uses comedy as commentary. And now that you say that, I'm like, maybe I need to put that in this series.
100%.
Yeah, because what he's doing is really showing how the rich eat themselves, and he's using
100%.
and he's turning them against each other.
100%.
And then it also shows how, because of their looking at him as a token, he's able to infiltrate. Yeah, there's some
100%.
real.
That would be a good one for a discussion after,
Absolutely.
because really breaking that down and also talking about the fact that oftentimes when we do have American films that work about class, they are also about race, because that's...
Yes, interconnected. It's
yes.
Deeply threaded and entwined.
100%.
Where do you feel like there's the best space right now for films that are going to give commentary? Like, do you feel like the independent space is growing in that way? Like, do you feel like there really is now, again, a push in that direction?
In a certain way, I see a lot of attempts at it, especially post films like Get Out and Parasite. New films that try to attempt at what those films were talking about, but they kind of sort of miss the point.
It feels like they're it's like appropriation of sorts.
Absolutely.
Right?
100%.
It doesn't feel like a genre. It feels like a copy.
Yes, exactly. It feels like a Xerox without the goods. It's like you're missing some pages.
It's a black and white copy of a color of a cover, of a color photo.
100%. But I feel like the spaces where you can really seek out films where you'll really get that enrichment are theaters like ours that do both, or just show repertory films.
So talk about Nighthawk and what makes that theater unique, and what you guys are trying to do with that space and film.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say the unique thing about our theater is that we do first run films. So those are new films that are new releases. And we also do repertory films, which is my job. And I would say what makes our space so special is the diversity of our voices with our 3 programmers on our team. We all really do something different. We all just love good movies, but we're all trying to hit different audiences and really bring people together who really wouldn't expect to be in the same room together. Like, for example, I help curate a bi-monthly screening series that have drag shows before them. So that's a really cool curation to work with this performer named Miss Malice, who loves movies and can also turn out a show.
Right.
So to have a space where there are people who love drag, and then we're also showing a movie like The Slumber Party Massacre that's for the horror heads.
Yeah.
Bringing those 2 groups together is just absolutely fantastic and such a beautiful thing. And oftentimes she'll have trans performers with her. So to expose trans performers to a new audience of film lovers is also fantastic. Just bringing that together. And then for a series like mine, like Adventures in Black Cinema, right. When you're showing a movie like White Chicks, which was probably one of my bigger white audiences, in an intro, spoken by me, talking about the commentary that they're serving on white people, to have white people kind of sit there and be like, well, you're going to learn something. I think that's something that we like to do too, is really enrich people beyond the film with, intros and Q&As and stuff. And like what you're going to do, your discussion after the film, like really adding that nice cherry on top, because the best films really do warrant a conversation,
Yeah, I mean, I think the best films are more than the director is clearly doing more than just entertaining you. I mean, that's just the
100%.
reality. Uh
100%.
so Michael Jones, who's been a big fan since I was Amanda Diva, he had suggested the film Panther, and I have to tell you, I need to rewatch Panther.
Ooh, I haven't seen Panther.
95. I mean, Angela Bassett, Mario
Wow.
Van Peebles,
Ooh.
Kadeem Hardison, Melvin
Okay.
Van Peebles,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Chris
Add that to the
Tucker,
list.
Preston L. Jones. Like, I forgot about that film. I need to watch it again. And it has a 95%
Ooh.
on the people who watched it. Now, Rotten Tomatoes has a 25%, which lets me know that it's probably going to be good
Exactly.
because Rotten Tomatoes is rotten.
100%. I mean, that's another one of my monthly series that I do. It's called Reconsider This, where we take another look at box office bombs, critical misfires, underrated films, and the audience at the end gets to vote on whether they thought the film was a misunderstood masterpiece or a perfectly understood mess. And that's a great way to get people involved and engaged and kind of look back and be like, oh, they said this about this movie, but I love this movie. It's kind of like reclaiming
Yes.
those movies that were truly misunderstood because critics, most of the time,
They're
white
not watching
dudes.
it with the same reason.
Exactly.
Now, the
Exactly.
soundtrack for Panther was also a banger. It has Joe,
Ooh.
Usher and Monica did a duet, Blackstreet, Bobby Brown, Shanice did a cover of If I Were Your Woman. We got George Clinton, the Parliament Funkadelic, Aaron Hall, who is a terrible person, but he's a singer. Sounds of Blackness. Yeah, this was a time. Well, the 90s was a time when soundtracks
100%.
were just as much a part of the movie as the movie. Like, that was
100%.
very important. What's a film that actually got reconsidered?
So many of them. I'm doing Uptown Girls tonight.
But like, what's one that the audience was like, you know what? They got it wrong. Do you remember any?
Baps was a huge one. Baps got a 100% audience vote of misunderstood masterpiece. That was a huge
I need to rewatch Baps.
Yeah, I mean, really thinking about what makes a comedy film work. Great performances, great jokes. It's a tight 90 minutes. And I have to say, in that vein, rewatching that movie, I was like, there was no time wasted in this film.
That's my favorite thing. I hate a time waste on screen.
100%.
And listen, Desmond is always like, yeah, this is a good movie. I mean, it's 20 minutes too long, but it's a good movie.
Yes, that is typically the thing. Just cut.
Even I Am Still Here felt 20 minutes too long.
Absolutely. Because there is kind of like this build and then it starts going down,
Well, they felt the need to continue the story of the mother.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was a director's cut. I feel like it could have literally ended at them going to Sao Paulo.
Yeah, honestly. And I thought it kind of was. I thought it was kind of ending, but then, yeah, you're right. It did keep going a little too far to the point where that ending could have just been text,
Yeah, like, I don't know that was... I mean, who are we? I mean, it's a true story, right. So it's
true.
We wanted to show... Okay.
True. Like, y'all do it,
Okay. I will say, though, one of the things that you said before we go that really, to me, is the most effective thing about film is the relatability part, and the really tapping into your empathy and making you aware of just existences that you never considered. And as a United Statesian, because we don't want to call ourselves American anymore, so as a United Statesian, finding out that this country has been impacting people's lives all over the globe in ways that you were never aware of. Like, the latest for me has been, and this isn't film, but I mean, they shoot their TV shows like film, has been getting into K-dramas. Like, Korean dramas, every episode is a film.
So good. Literally so good.
The latest one I'm into is When Life Gives You Tangerines. So much so that there was a Korean woman on the train with me yesterday, and she was watching it on her phone, and I was like,
hey.
And she's like, you watch. And I was like,
yes. Oh, so good.
And
so good.
But I had no idea about the Korean-Japanese, scenario.
Pachinko.
I had I mean, don't get me started on pachinko. You know how I feel about pachinko.
Yes.
You know, y'all, it was Desmond who put me on a pachinko because I had a friend who was like, it's slow. And I learned, I realized long after she had told me that she has bad taste in TV and film. But I forgot that was her who had told me that. And then Desmond was very casually like at my house and was like, you've never watched pachinko?
Yes.
Get into it.
Yes.
I lost 2 weeks of my life and I don't need him
100%.
back.
100%.
I don't need them back. Pachinko is one of the greatest shows ever made.
Period.
I stand on it.
It's so good.
But just learning about these different existences, like I had an Uber driver the other day who put me on to 2 Indian films that I need to watch, and
they be doing cinema.
And it's so funny how people really be like knowing your vibe, because when I looked at the films, they are about fighting back against colonization.
Yes, typically, yes.
It's not just like we're dancing in Bollywood. No.
In very big, bold ways.
Yes.
Like if you want to see a blockbuster, that's a blockbuster.
Yes.
Like
yes. And I know the book Pachinko is good, but it's like someone here said, Miss Seals, the book is incredible too. Of course it's incredible.
Of course, yeah.
But I don't want to start it.
Totally.
Because I don't want to know.
Because now you're watching it really unfold. And I'm not sure. I think the book just goes in order, whereas the show does a really cool thing of kind of like jumping around time that I really, really appreciate, because it really puts you into like, okay, here's how this moment affected this moment directly.
Yes.
You know, which is fantastic. But I did hear the book is incredible.
When Life Gives You Tangerines mimics that similarly. And at first I was like, oh, they biting. And then I was like, it's fine. Like,
They're doing
a good job.
Yeah.
To answer your question, Fatima, yes, Lagan is one of the movies that he suggested. Lagan is one of the movies, and the other one was Shah Zahibzadeh. And that's because he was Sikh. And this is about like the Sikh. It's one of the Sikh stories. So
incredible.
Someone asked if we've watched Mad Men. I have watched Mad Men.
Yes.
You know, Mad Men is one of those shows where, again, it's like, we're going to tap this.
Yeah.
But we're not going to really do it. We're still going to try and humanize this very terrible person.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this very terrible system.
100%. Yeah, that is kind of the thing about that show. Like, it's definitely very richly written. And at the same time, I am kind of just like, okay, like, sure.
I don't know if you've been watching White Lotus, but I find this season to be absolutely terrible.
Really?
Yeah, this is the whitest white that the White Lotus has ever been, and they're in an entirely non-white country. They're literally in Thailand, and I'm not interested in any of the characters. I don't care about any of them. I literally turned it off last night. I was like, I'm good. I don't care about this. Did you
make it to the monologue?
Yeah, I did. And I was like, what are we doing here? Yeah, because I was like, here we go. It just felt so sensational. Like, this white man is talking about some real wild, like, you know, it just goes over. It felt like jumping the shark.
Word. I can see that.
Like, it came out of nowhere, and I don't know what it was for.
Yeah, it can be harder this season than other seasons to kind of see, like, what they're pointing at.
What are they pointing at? Help me.
Yeah.
Help me.
Well, it's supposed to be, this whole season's theme is supposed to be kind of about death and enlightenment, which I can kind of see peek through every once in a while with, like, certain characters, certain people, like the daughter, the good one. I can see that kind of pointing through for her. And I know that death is coming, and you can kind of see death and the impact with the Walton Goggins character.
Yes.
A bit. But I will say, like,
whom I love. I love Walton Goggins.
I love him so much.
And I really love his face.
Yes.
I don't know what it is about his face. I really love his face.
There really is something about it. And I feel like the themes of the other 2 seasons, you know, the first season being really pointed about money and class.
Okay.
Second season really being pointed about, like, sex and how we view that, especially from an American standpoint, being in another country. I feel like those were much clearer and more pointed.
Yes.
I mean, I'm interested to see how this evolves. And Parker Posey,
I mean,
acting down.
My lorazepam. Now that you've given me a context, I can watch it a bit differently because I didn't have that context. I just felt like I was watching white people white.
No, totally. And I do. I'm very interested to see what goes down with the guy who was married to Jennifer Coolidge. You know, the older guy.
Yeah, and Natasha. I mean, I forgot her character's name on the show. Belinda. I know her as an actual human person.
Yeah. Yes. But yeah, I'm interested to see where it goes. And I'm always interested to see where they're gonna go next season. I mean, that's always what I'm kind of waiting for, you know.
For the record, Parker Posey is a SUNY Purchase graduate, so I just want to point that out.
Queen.
A fellow Purchase grad. Well, now that you've given me context, this is why we talk to Desmond, y'all. This is why, because Desmond is going to get you to where you need to get when it comes to TV and film. He's going to bring you right there and help you get there. So thank you for once again putting me on course.
Yes.
Anything you're watching right now that we should know about?
Ooh, this animated show on HBO Max called Common Side Effects. So these yes.
Okay.
Yes. Same creators as Scavenger's Reign, which we talked about on the radio show back in the day. This is a show essentially about this guy who discovers this mushroom that can cure anything, and his homegirl from back in the day happens to work for a pharmaceutical company, and they just happen to meet up one day. So that's where the story kind of goes. You know, the DEA is after him, you know, people are after him because he has this thing that could cure anything, and that could put a lot of people out of their fucking money.
All right, so then I'm gonna have to watch that. I just discovered Gina, which is a Chinese film that the part 2 is the highest grossing.
Oh, I've heard of this.
Yeah. It's the highest grossing film in the States, and it's Chinese. And I watched part 1. It's kind of amazing.
Okay. That's on my list. That is on my list. Hell yeah.
And then they suggested another film after it, another Chinese animation film. I didn't even know about Chinese animation.
Me neither, honestly. It's kind of a blind spot for me.
Yeah, I knew about Japanese animation, but I didn't know about Chinese animation. Well, let me tell you something. Chinamation is doing something.
Yes, Chinamation.
Yes. So you can watch Xena on I'm sure you can just rent it, but it's also available if you have Peacock. It's available for free. Nice. So I'm going to watch Common Side Effects. And once again, Desmond, thank you so much. And thank you for giving us the opportunity to bring Smart, Funny, and Black to the movies, where we will be discussing and watching They Clone Tyrone this Thursday at Prospect Park, Nighthawk Theater at Prospect Park. You can see the Addy scrolling across the bottom. Get your tickets. Remember, when you guys buy tickets to stuff that I'm doing, you are supporting the whole world of Smart, Funny, and Black productions. Okay, so that includes Small Doses Podcast, which is now independent. That includes the creations that come out of Amanda Land Exports. That includes when I am going to do free shows because that supports me as a creative, right? Absolutely. And I really feel like we are necessarily we have to find spaces for community, and I want there to be intellectual spaces. And so thank you, Nighthawk Prospect Park, for allowing us to have that at your venue. So shout out to Desmond Thorne, y'all.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Always. And I will see you on Thursday.
See you on Thursday.
I enjoyed laughing and learning with you. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And tell your friends. Also, listen to the podcast. It's available everywhere pods are casted. Listen ad-free by subscribing to Patreon Amanda Seals. Come on and join the Seals Squad. Views from Amandaland. Live 10 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Wednesday, with content on Thursday and Friday at YouTube Amanda Seals TV. Smart, funny, and